So the Christian God decided to create the universe for why? Why exactly would he do such a thing? I mean, he's always existed. He's had perfect relationship with himself since he's tri-personal. Why on earth would he need or want to create anything? That's exactly what we're going to dive into on today's episode. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 3 of the Vitality Principle with me, Christopher Nelson II. On this podcast, we are elevating your vitality levels with the following principle, with the principle that confidence in God's identity and purposes is a sufficient compass for the ideal lifestyle and a peaceful conscience. That is what we explore on these episodes. Episode number 3, we're already through 2 of them. So if you haven't seen episodes 1 or 2 yet, I highly encourage you to do so. This episode builds on those 2. Number 1 was me talking about my story, who I am, some of my life accomplishments, and more importantly, how my perspective has radically changed over time, aside from the accomplishments. Spoiler alert, the accomplishments didn't really do much for me. What did more for me was realizing just how wrong my perspective was foundationally and submitting myself to God's complete revitalization of my own perspective. That resulted in me writing a 32-page long article outlining my perspective on the narrative of creation, which is pretty much just an overview of our reality. So go ahead and check out episode 1 if you haven't already. Then go check out episode number 2, which was our last episode. On that episode, I outlined the definitions of the beings and wills that operate in our reality. Go take a look at my current perspective, again, subject to change, but probably not going to change anytime soon, on the being and will of God, humanity, and angels. Underrated angels and demons and Satan. Very underrated, but very, very important to the narrative of creation and the story of our reality overall. Go ahead and check that episode out. But if you've already seen those 2, here we are at episode number 3. It's about time that we dive right on into the purpose of creation. And I know you've been waiting a long time for this. If you have, not really, honestly. And you've probably still caught yourself thinking about all the stuff I said on the last episode. That was pretty intense. This episode should be a little bit less intense and it should be a little bit shorter, but you never know. I'm passionate about this stuff, man. I love talking about this. This is something that absolutely changed my life. These concepts, not told to me by any specific person, not any specific doctrine, not any specific dogma, just a particular accomplished summary, if you will, of my perspective on these issues after years and years of deep study, diving into various theological perspectives, various religious perspectives, various worldview perspectives. This is the perspective I've settled on. That said, we're going to dive right on into it. The purpose of creation. Why exactly did God create the universe at all? Let's dive right on into it. Like last week's episode, I'm going to read the section verbatim, and I'm going to share my thoughts at the end. As per usual, please share your thoughts with me in the comments section. I learn the most by listening to other people's perspectives, regardless of your worldview. If you're a Christian listening to this, congratulations for finding this, I suppose. It was the Lord's will that you're here right now. And I hope that you can encourage me in the comments section with any thoughts that you have, positive, negative, or otherwise. If you're not a Christian, I hope the same thing. I hope to learn more about whatever your worldview is. It obviously helps sharpen my perspective to hear legitimate, honest, not rude differences in perspective. So please go ahead and hit me up in the comments section if you're not a Christian as well and you came across this content. But for now, let's read section 3. This is the purpose of creation. Let's start this section with an important point from the last one. God formed everything for a purpose. He authored every setting, every character, every plot line, and every occurrence within creation. But why exactly would a self-sufficient, uncreated, immortal being form anything at all? Well, he communicates the scope of his intentions primarily to the prophet Isaiah. Who has directed the Spirit of the Lord, or, as his counselor, has informed him? With whom did he consult, or who gave him understanding? And who taught him in the path of justice, and taught him knowledge, and informed him of the way of understanding? Behold, the nations are like a drop from a bucket, and are regarded as a speck of dust on the scales. Behold, he lifts up the islands like fine dust. Even Lebanon is not enough to burn, nor its beasts enough for a burnt offering. All the nations are as nothing before him. They are regarded by him as less than nothing and meaningless. To whom then will you liken God? Or what likeness will you compare with him? Isaiah 40, verses 13 through 18. Who has performed and accomplished it, calling forth the generations from the beginning? I, the Lord, am the first and with the last. I am he. Isaiah 41, verse 4. Thus says the Lord, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts. I am the first, and I am the last, and there is no God besides me. Who is like me? Let him proclaim and declare it. Yes, let him recount it to me in order, from the time that I established the ancient nation. And let them declare to them the things that are coming, and the events that are going to take place. Do not tremble, and do not be afraid. Have I not long since announced it to you and declared it? And you are my witnesses. Is there any God besides me? Or is there any other rock? I know of none. Isaiah 44, 6 through 8. Woe to the one who quarrels with his maker, an earthenware vessel among the vessels of earth. Will the clay say to the potter, what are you doing? Or the thing you are making say, he has no hands? Woe to him who says to a father, what are you begetting? Or to a woman, to what are you giving birth? Thus says the Lord, the Holy One of Israel, and his Maker. Ask me about the things to come concerning my sons, and you shall commit to me the work of my hands. It is I who have made the earth and created man upon it. I stretched out the heavens with my hands, and ordained all their host. I have aroused him in righteousness, and I will make all his ways smooth. He will build my city, and will let my exiles go free, without any payment or reward, says the Lord of hosts. Isaiah 45, 9 through 13. Remember this and be assured. Recall it to mind, you transgressors. Remember the former things long past. For I am God, and there is no other. I am God, and there is no one like me, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times things which have not been done, saying, my purpose will be established, and I will accomplish all my good pleasure. Isaiah 46, 8 through 10. I declared the former things long ago. Then they went forth from my mouth, and I proclaimed them. Suddenly I acted, and they came to pass. Isaiah 48, verse 3. For my own sake, I will act. For how can my name be profaned? And my glory I will not give to another. Isaiah 48, verse 11. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. Isaiah 55, verses 8 through 9. God even challenges the other gods on their ability to fulfill the same types of intentions that he does. Present your case, the Lord says. Bring forward your strong arguments, the King of Jacob says. Let them bring forth and declare to us what is going to take place. As for the former events, declare what they were, that we may consider them and know their outcome. Or announce to us what is coming. Declare the things that are going to come afterward, that we may know that you are gods. Indeed, do good or evil, that we may anxiously look about us and fear together. Behold, you are of no account, and your work amounts to nothing. He who chooses you is an abomination. Isaiah 41, 21 through 24. So we see that God's intentions for creation center around his identity. He is the first and the last. He has always existed, having no peers before him or any peers after him. He is never informed by anything or anyone about anyone or anything. He is the only creator of all environments and the creatures within them. He is uncontestably supreme over these environments and the creatures within them. His thoughts and ways are supreme over creaturely thoughts and ways. He interacts with his environments and creatures in a totally unhindered manner. The creatures within the environments, their inherent characteristics, and their generational progressions on the timeline are ordained and governed by him. He declares and ordains the events that have already occurred and those that are yet to occur. He acts at the time of his intention. He does all of this to achieve his ultimate intention, the fulfillment of his own pleasure through his own glorification for his own sake. There is no one and nothing like him at all. But notice 3 conditions that God presents about his relationship with creation. Number 1, his thoughts and ways are higher than humanity's. Number 2, his identity cannot be profaned. And number 3, he does not give his glory to another. This ultimately means that God is always legitimately exalted, never truly violated, and always exclusively supreme. God never yields any weight of his inherent substance to anything that is not him. This places God in a one-of-one category of existence. Ultimately, these conditions are tied to 10 aspects of God's identity. These unique aspects are never inherently or independently possessed by anyone or anything other than God himself. These are the 10 aspects. Number 1, his holiness, meaning that he is uniquely supreme. 2, his eternality, the fact that he is uncreated and indestructible or immortal. Number 3, his perfection. He is totally complete. He lacks nothing. Number 4, he is triune. He is one being, 3 persons, same essence, shared purpose, different roles. Number 5, he is loving. He is unconditionally selfless, sacrificial, and submissive. Number 6, he is omnipresent, permanently unlimited in presence. Everywhere is what he maintains. Number 7, his omniscience. He is permanently unlimited in his knowledge of everything. Number 8 is his omnipotence. He is permanently unlimited in his power and authority. Number 9 is omnibenevolence. He is permanently unlimited in moral uprightness. And number 10 is immutability or his impassibility, meaning that he is unchanged and uninfluenced by anything. We should note also, downstream from these 10 aspects are the 4 relational aspects of God's character. These relational aspects are also demonstrated. Did you hear this? I hope you heard that. This guy just zoomed right by my apartment building. It's like 2 buildings. Just complete tangent, by the way. It's 2 buildings. There's a building across from us and the building that I'm in. And this guy just decides to, crank up the rev on his motorbike right in between them. I understand. Anyway, hopefully that wasn't too distracting. Let's get back on topic. I'll just start the paragraph again. We should also note that downstream from these 10 unique identity aspects are the 4 relational aspects of God's character. These relational aspects are also demonstrated by creatures other than God, but not in the same unique, supreme manner with respect to God's moral uprightness and autonomous ability. While these relational aspects are applicable to God's relationship with his creatures, they are not applicable within his eternal triune relationship with himself. These are the 4 relational aspects. Number 1, his grace. His grace is a granted, unearned gift. Number 2, his mercy, which is a withheld, earned consequence. That's what his mercy produces. Number 3, his wrath, which is his unleashed, earned punishment. Number 4, his justice, impartial, rendered consequence. Also worth noting is that downstream from these 4 relational aspects of God's character are his various relational roles. These roles, which are generally expressed in Hebrew, refer to God's specific relationship with his creation and with his people. Examples of these roles include Elohim, which means creator, Adonai, which means master, Jireh, which means provider, and Rapha, which means healer. Overall, the key conditions that God maintains with respect to creation are the grounds for creation's fundamental limitations. This is principle number 7, the glorification exclusivity principle, as I've termed it. God never yields any weight of his inherent substance to anything, to any substance he's formed, and all substance formed remains inherently inferior to God from its origin point through eternity. Let's observe 3 applications of these key conditions. First, God alone is inherently uncreated and immortal. He's eternal. So anything he forms must not be inherently uncreated or immortal, meaning that everything he formed is inherently created and mortal or finite. Second, God alone is inherently totally complete or perfect. So anything he forms must not be inherently totally complete, meaning that everything he's formed is inherently dependent or imperfect. Third, God alone is inherently morally upright or omnibenevolent. So anything he forms must not be inherently morally upright, meaning that everything he's formed is inherently morally fallen or malevolent. Notice that the relationship between God and creation is one of total opposites, not exact opposites. The difference between these two concepts is that exact opposites identify 2 extremes on a single spectrum or relationship scale, while total opposites identify 2 norms on 2 different spectrums that share no inherent aspects. In the context of benevolence, the exact opposite of omnibenevolence is omnimalevolence. But since God is eternal and creation is finite, God and creation fundamentally exist on 2 different spectrums rather than the same spectrum. As such, creation exists in a totally opposite state than God's omnibenevolence, which is simply malevolence, no omni. While this specific topic is very technical and nerdy, it's actually a fundamental reality that upholds God's opportunity to redeem creation. More on this later. So overall, what is the purpose of creation? The purpose of creation is to glorify God by revealing his totally unique and supreme identity. He was already glorified within himself in eternity, not having his fundamental or his functionality controlled or supported by anything or anyone. However, God isn't simply a transcendent machine. He's spirit, meaning he has a heart and a mind. As such, he desired to do something satisfactory instead of simply be someone complete. To serve this exact purpose, within his uniquely supreme mind, he envisioned a reality that he eventually formed into existence. Now, having clarified the purpose of creation and outlined the details and distinctions of God's glorious identity, let's address the reason why suffering is a necessary reality in the demonstration of God's glorious identity. We'll get to that on the next episode, but that wraps up section number 3. So hopefully things are starting to get a little bit more interesting now. Now we're diving deeper into the purpose of creation. Some thoughts that I had when I was writing this. It's first and foremost, it's very interesting to see the Isaiah 40 through, 48 corridor on this particular subject. I guess Isaiah 55 could be thrown in there too. Isaiah really has been revealed, or was revealed, a ton about who God is, what God's relationship with something or everything that is not him is, and just why exactly he does the things he does. It's very interesting to me to read through all these Isaiah verses like we saw and just see how totally confident and rock solid and unchanging God is fundamentally and just who he is, because that is really what sets him apart from all other gods. And you even saw in that one Isaiah verse, in Isaiah 41, 21 through 24, God is just mocking any other gods that people worship and submit themselves to, not necessarily because they're his rival in some sense and he's trying to make them look bad, but simply because they just do not compare. Their abilities are just fundamentally inferior to him. And so this kind of speaks to the world that we have today, right? Because there are just so many different perspectives on who God is, on what religion is, on whether religion is necessary at all, whether religion is good or bad, so many different perspectives. And there are so many different versions of quote unquote God that people worship. But at the end of the day, it's so important to understand that the one thing that makes Christianity different from every single other religion is the total supremacy, the total comprehensive nature and character, identity of the God of the Bible. There's not a single other God like the God of the Bible. There's not a God who is self-sufficient in and of himself. And you think about this with respect to other religions in particular, especially the religions that claim that God is one person, one being, right? Very common. And that God has always existed before the universe existed. Religions that believe in a creator God. Not every religion believes that, which is fine. But for those that acknowledge what even basic science acknowledges, that at one point in time, everything began, for those religions, it's always interesting to me how they reconcile that God being relational while not making that God dependent on his creation for his existence. What I mean by that is, if God is relational, like we see when we're walking through the aspects of his nature, right? He is love. That's a relational thing. And he's tripersonal. So he exists in relationship with other persons within himself as his one being. It's always interesting to me how monopersonal, singular being, God-worshiping religions make the fact that their God is relational make sense. Because if your God is one person and one being, it means he's the only one that existed before everything else existed. Then how could he be relational without what he created to have relationship with him? Right? Your God always existed by himself. Then he created something. And within the something he created, the universe, he wants people to worship him, to give him glory, to perform certain rituals at certain times in the day, certain times of the month, certain times of the year, what have you. But that relationship doesn't make sense if your God is only one person, because he could not have eternally existed in a relationship. Why would you assume that your God is relational if he didn't have anyone to relate with in eternity and is only relational because you exist? And so this is the beauty of the Christian God. There's no other God in any other religion, as far as I'm currently aware. If you're aware of something else that's different than that, please let me know. I am not aware of another religion that professes that their God is multi-personal with one being. You have a bunch of religions that profess to worship many gods that are all one person and one being, but there are many different gods, so they can have relationship with each other. Right, that's fine. But there's no unity there. That's the other part of relationship. Fundamentally, relationship is about unity. And then pretty much all these other religions, aside from the fact that many different gods have many different desires and many different wants, and in some religions or philosophical perspectives fight each other for dominance and superiority. It's like, how does that perspective accurately account for what basic human intuition understands relationship to be about, which is unity, as a shared body, as multiple different people sharing unity around a purpose or around an objective? It doesn't reconcile, really. And so to me, it's very interesting that God is very clear about who he is, and that he's just so much different than any other religion on the planet Earth, that he's either the one who's actually legit, he is the one true God, or he's just like all the others. And it's just an inaccurate understanding of the human mind. All right, we invented God because, the mind produces consciousness, and people needed a way to explain that. So they invented a being who's way off there in the sky, who's in control of everything, right? Either God is in that category with every single other invented religion, or there's something to the fact that the God of the Bible actually can hold his own in his nature. He doesn't need to create something to be himself, to be glorious, to be relational. Right? And so that's a very interesting thought that I had as I was reading through this Isaiah corridor, thinking through what makes the God of the Bible different from the gods of other religions. Another interesting thing, I guess, that I took away from this is just how opposite people are from God. Fundamentally, that thing about total opposites might have sounded a little bit technical and nerdy, but it's very interesting. Oftentimes, people think of themselves on a similar plane to God, like they're way at the bottom, right? And God is way up here, but we're on the same plane. And the reality is it's just not true. We're on two completely different planes. God does something. God changes a heart. God saves a person. God puts a thought in someone's mind to go make someone feel good on a day that they're not feeling very good, right? But you don't see that. It happens. And if you're a Christian, you understand that God is the one who's responsible for that. If you listened to the last episode, you also know that I believe that. But it's just so interesting to see how completely opposite God is from humanity. And this ends up becoming a very important foundation for topics that I will discuss in future episodes as we walk through this article. But it's really the reason why salvation is beautiful in the first place, is that we're not on the same plane as God. We are completely helpless. He is completely sufficient. And in a demonstration of his unconditional, unhindered love, he decided to unite a group, a species, people from within a certain creature type with himself when they do not deserve it and they do not share any inherent characteristics of him. They have completely different objectives fundamentally than God does. We do not seek to serve God naturally. God seeks to be served naturally. We do not seek to follow God's moral standard naturally. God seeks for people to serve his moral standard. And so there's just a complete difference here. But that's the beauty of salvation, is that people get to be one with God. But maybe I'm just getting a little bit ahead of myself, because that's another section. It's not the next section. I think it's the section after that one. But anyway, that was another interesting thought that I had after writing this and reflecting on it, is that humanity and God are not on the same spectrum. We're not on the same relationship scale. This is really an instance of God being just so grand and so splendorous and so omnipresent to the point that he's both here with us, he's immanent, and he's transcendent at the same time. It's just beautiful, especially since we're not that. But ultimately, the purpose of creation, in conclusion, that the purpose of creation is for God to be glorified through everything that happens. I think I summarized it nicely at the end of one of these paragraphs, and at the very end, at the very last paragraph. He does all this to achieve his ultimate intention, the fulfillment of his own pleasure through his own glorification for his own sake. I don't think people often think much about the fact that God does everything for his own sake. Obviously, he loves his people, right? He saves people. He loves those who love him, is what Scripture says. I think it's in Proverbs somewhere. Don't have the reference off the top of my head. But it's cool to think about that. But oftentimes people draw a distinction there, and they're like, well, God does things for his sake, and he does things for humanity's sake. It's like, no, ultimately, he does everything for his sake, which is why he unites you to himself and doesn't just do something for you off over here as someone who's somehow independent of him. He brings you to him. He draws you to him, and he keeps you. Like John 10 talks about, the fact that none of Jesus's sheep will be lost. He's a perfect shepherd in providing and protecting for his sheep. He brings you, he draws you, and he keeps you. And it's such a beautiful understanding of our relationship to a God who does everything for his sake. And since he does everything for his sake, has decided to, in his love, bring us into himself, to unite us to himself, so that everything is still done for his sake, and we can still be the beneficiaries of that reality, not at our expense, but at his full pleasure and glorification. It's really cool. And then at the end, this is a very, very important takeaway. The reason why God chose to create fundamentally. Now, I'm sure that there are people who might disagree with this, but to me, this makes sense. If you think I'm missing something, again, please drop it in the comments. But like I said, like we talked about, like Scripture talks about, God is spirit. So he has a conscience. Doesn't have a body, but he has a conscience. And so fundamentally, the fact that he desired to do something satisfactory and didn't simply just want to be someone complete is a very, very important distinction here. God is not dependent on creation to function. God's not dependent on anything or anyone for anything, like we saw earlier. God's functionality is fine. He could have been himself in his full glory for all of eternity without creating something. But he has a conscience, and he desired to reveal himself. And it's so cool that he did that, number one. And number two, that he created us in a way that we can understand that. Not only has he written his truth on every single person's heart, but he frees people from their captivity in their fleshly self. It's such that they can understand that and give him glory and worship him, and then encourage others to do the same in the way that they live and in what they say. It's just so cool that all of this is downstream from God's revelation of himself and his fundamental desire to do so freely, unhindered, untethered to anything else in order to function. It's just so cool. So those are my takeaways from this section, and that is this section overall on the purpose of creation. We'll be back on the next episode to continue our walkthrough of the narrative of creation. Again, this 32-page long article that I wrote that outlines the foundational aspects of this reality. Who is doing what is the purpose of everything fundamentally, because the more we understand these things, the more we can place our own personality, our own purposes, our own duty, our own pursuit of moral conduct within the full picture. And we ultimately achieve something closer to that ideal lifestyle that we're pursuing, grounded in truth and trust in the God of the universe. And so that's what we'll continue on the next episode, talking about the necessity of suffering. Seems kind of contradictory or not intuitive. We'll outline why exactly that's not the case on that episode. But thank you for listening to this episode. Hopefully you've enjoyed the first 3 episodes so far. I'm not going to ask you to like or share. You can do that if you want to. At a minimum, I just hope that you join me here for episode number 4. So till then, take care.